everybody, and welcome to Moms on a Mission. Dr. Jason Dean's Full Moon Protocol provides all natural detoxification from parasitic conditions due to the food we eat, and it fights inflammation. As you can imagine, when this condition is treated, you have a lot more energy. I know when I took it, I thought that was virtually impossible, but it does turn out that getting rid of parasites makes you have more energy. So if you go to bravetv.store/mission and order the Full Moon Protocol today, and it takes generally a couple of weeks for it to start working. It is a great product. I highly encourage you to do it. Go to bravetv.store/mission, and then you'll save $20 off your first order. We have a great opportunity today to get to learn from two amazing, fun, and feisty pastors who love Jesus like crazy. They've been married forever and actually are quite opposite, but they figured out how to make it work, and they teach us all how to hold on to our marriages. And their most recent book, which I absolutely loved, called Love Handles. I love the title. I don't know who came up with it, but it is absolutely amazing. They pastor 3 campuses of his church in Amarillo, Texas, and Henderson and Owensboro, Kentucky. Please welcome to Moms on a Mission, Pastors Brian and Jessi Gibson.
We're so glad to be with you today.
Hey, thanks so much for having us. It's a real honor.
Oh, thank you guys so much. You guys gave me this book at dinner that night, and I love the title and how Pastor Jessi described this. She said, it's very easy reading. You can read it really fast. And it turns out she was right. I read it in a few hours. It felt like we went to coffee together and y'all were just sharing your pearls and words of wisdom on how you made marriage work for all these years. So thanks for writing this. I thought it was absolutely amazing.
I am glad that you read it. We wanted a book that everyone would read, because if you need help in your marriage, you don't have usually a lot of time to dig in. You need something that you can grab on the go and make work that day. So that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant that you keep it short enough that people can get through it, because you ask people, are you reading a book? And they're usually reading 6 books at one time, and they're so long that you can't get through it. So I think that was brilliant to do that. Tell us how you met and what led to you all becoming pastors.
Yeah, well, I met Jessi in rehab in the late 90s. So
oh my.
I was in trouble with a bunch of outlaws from Western Kentucky, wild kid. I fled to West Texas to get away from a bunch of real trouble, right? I was like a meth smoker, outlaw, cokehead, all that stuff. So this pastor took me in. Gave my life to Jesus. He kind of took me in as a faith-based drug rehab program, gave my life to Jesus, got spirit-filled. He cast the devil out of me, taught me how to live according to the kingdom of God, and to pay him back for everything he did for me, I ran off with his daughter. So that's how we got married.
I want to point out that I was not in drug rehab. I was actually just living my best life. And Brian ended up with my dad, and my dad was ministering to him. And then after like a year of that, then he just started coming by the house, and I couldn't get rid of him. And the next thing I knew, I had to hang out with him.
She was
I loved it.
Around everywhere.
Like you couldn't get rid of him. So you're like, I might as well just marry the guy. He's not.
Might as well marry the guy. Yeah, no, he was fantastic. And it was amazing to me, just like how night and day, like when Jesus actually just delivers somebody. It was like when he came, he was like, he seemed super old and like really dark. And then within just a few months, God had just shifted everything for him and really brought him into the kingdom of light. And we became incredible friends, really just best friends. And we found ourselves hanging out all the time, and all my friends wanted him around because he was just fun and happy. And, God had really done a work in him. So at the end of the day, we were both moving to the same city and going to 2 different schools, but in the same city. And we looked at each other and we were like, why in the world are we moving there separately and like living separately? Like we never want to live without each other. And then Brian was like, I think we should get married. And he was like, I love you. And I'm like, love me like how? And he's like, love you.
Oh,
like, oh, okay. We are serious. Like we had never been on a date, and he's asking me to marry him. So
wait, I have goosebumps right now. Are you serious?
I am 100% serious. Yes. He was like, we have got to get married. And I was thinking like, it seemed so normal at times. Like he is right. Like we really have to get married, because I don't think I can ever live without him. And if I marry someone else, they're definitely not going to let me hang out with him this much. So I'm going to have to marry him so that I can.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it became no option. We've got to get married.
Well, was it a mutual attraction, if you will? Like, did you both kind of at the same time realize like, hey, God's calling us together. We're supposed to be married?
Yeah, I
think
think
so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I obviously knew she was good looking the first time I ever saw her. Right, that's the way guys work. Guys are drawn with the eye. That's the entry point. But I'll say this: Jessi was extremely wholesome. I'd come out of the party world where I'd just been living like the devil, right, living like animals practically, and to see how different she was from all the other people I'd been around, it was, it was attractive. And I guess it's true. Bad boys like good girls, right? There's something true about that. And a lot of times good girls like bad boys, but good girls don't marry bad boys or you'll have a bad life
This is
unless
true.
they get really born again.
Yeah.
But
I really
did.
like you. I really didn't have any affection for him until God had transformed him. I mean, I liked him as like a person because he was respectful. He had manners. He was, obviously good looking. I had all these things I knew about him, but it wasn't like, oh, I really want to marry him until really God changed him. And then it was like, okay, and kind of put a spotlight on him. I try to tell people because people are like, oh, my son just needs a good girl. I'm like, no, that good girl does not need your son. Like that boy needs Jesus or that girl needs Jesus. And then God puts kind of a favor on them that attracts the right people into your life. And that's what I saw. It was like a favor came all over him. And I knew a calling was on his life and it matched up with mine. This old preacher once told me, he's like, just run for Jesus. And then whenever someone is running just as hard as you and you look over and they're not struggling to run with you, grab their hand, marry them, and live the rest of your life with them. But if you have to slow down for them, then don't do it. Just keep running until someone is right there with you. And I really feel like that's kind of how it ended up, was just like we looked over, we're like, oh, we're running this race together. This is our deal. Yeah. So
that's so good.
There's something to be said about we never played the traditional American dating game either, right? I mean, you didn't play that. It wasn't like you're just trying somebody else on every 10 minutes to see how it fits or works.
Yeah, we're not shoes.
Yeah, we're not shoes that you try on and you get rid of. I say that about our daughters all the time. It's like, boys, my girls aren't shoes for you to try on and then pitch away.
No.
These are my children, my daughters, my seed that I'm called to protect and provide for. So we get a lot of young people that have a lot of trauma, a lot of times because they're waiting to get married so long in life too. We keep extending adolescence, pushing back childbearing years, which really doesn't work biologically. We think it does. It doesn't work the way it should. And you get a lot of broken people because the more relationships you hop in and out of, the more relational trauma you have. Then you got to get it healed or you drag it into your marriage. And so I'm thankful. We didn't play the dating game. We got married very young, 22 and 19. We practically raised each other. So we don't have two different worldviews. We kind of have a worldview we formed at the same time.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
I love that. I love that you all are aligned in that area and you really lived it. And like you said, you formed that together, that worldview, because what you're speaking about, this not dating and just being friends and then getting married. I mean, that's so against our current culture. I mean, if you speak like that as a mom or a dad, I mean, people think you're from another planet, that you're an alien, because that's so counterculture, but yet it's really the best plan that God could have come up with. You first need to have a friendship anyway. And why date when you really don't want to go down that path until you're married? Why even tempt yourself?
Yeah, I think sometimes people ask us all the time because it's like, at the same time, there was like this purity culture and things going on in the church that I really wasn't super aware of. It wasn't like I was replicating something that I'd seen or a book that came out. It's just like, this is who I am. And then I just hung out with people all the time. We had groups of friends. My family had gatherings and he came in. And I think that's a really good way to get to know someone. Like, have them over, play games, watch their temper flare. Can they control it? Are they competitive? Like, so much you can learn about people by just living life with them and serving God in church and stuff. Like, we volunteered together. We went on group trips together. We did all the things, we went on missions trips together, but so we were around each other literally all day, every day, and got to know that person's strengths and weaknesses and decide whether or not we really wanted to marry the person. Because anyone can pretend for an hour on a date,
That's so true. And I think that happens a lot. And I think that's what you see, these wedges come in because they're like, hey, I didn't know that. I want to ask you what prompted you to write this book, Love Handles, and who picked the title?
I think a friend of ours picked the title.
I cannot remember the genesis of the.
I can't.
I think it came out of the idea somewhere where we're kicking it around out of Genesis.
Yes.
Where God opens up Adam's side, right, to make Eve. So the first woman comes out of Adam's side. The rib comes out. God looks down at Adam, says, "Listen, it's not good for you to be alone. I'll make a helper for you." So the Holy Spirit comes on Adam. He goes down under God's anesthetic. God cuts open his side because marriage is going to cost you something. Pulls out the rib and makes a woman. So we
I
say,
think someone was just making a joke at dinner or something like, "Oh, God, gave us the original love handle," and then we just started laughing. So I think that was kind of how it was birthed. And we wrote it because it's our number one. Every year we do a series together. We've pastored, we've pastored for years. Every year,
20.
yeah. This next year, it'll be 20 years. And every year we do a series on marriage because everyone needs it. And every year we do it together because we love to teach together. And it's our number one, most requested, most attended series of the year. So besides Christmas, it's probably number one in attendance every season of people. So we thought, man, this is a real need. People were saying it's really practical. The way you explain it is easier for us to understand. And so we just tried to write something that would replicate that message, that people wouldn't have to come out for, and that we could get it to more people all over the earth. So
yeah, the love handle too is like, it's something you can grab a hold of, right? It's simple ideas like a love handle. If you're walking beside your spouse, you put your hand around them. Jessi has no love handles, but I have two of them. And it's a marriage principle you can get a hold of.
That's really nice of you to say that about me, that I don't have any love handles, because it's not actually true.
23 years.
Well, he should say that because you're absolutely beautiful. So one thing I wanted to point out, which I thought was really cool, the way you guys set this book up, is that there are 10 love handles in this book. So you've broken down some normal concepts in marriage, money, communication, things like that. And then there's some other ones. And one of the love handles is loneliness. And many people do get married for companionship. And you noted that in Genesis 2:18, God even says that it's not good that man should be alone. Pastor Jessi, you mentioned that companionship costs something. What did you mean by that? And you had just said that, Pastor Brian, as well. What do you mean by that?
I think it costs you everything. The Bible says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed? And it's really hard to come into agreement unless you both give something up, So for me, I was young. I was having this moment where I'm like, yes, this is what I want. Yes, this is who I want, all of these things. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to give up being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Like, I'm always going to have someone that I got to check the schedule with and come beside. And, we're going to have to work this thing out. It kind of panicked me like about a month before. And Brian just looked at me and he's like, do you mind if I what are you worried about? I'm like, I have so much to do. Like, I have to go here. I've got to go on this mission trip. I've got to go here and reach these people. I have this calling from God. I have this thing that's a part of my dream and on my bucket list. And he just looked at me really like steady and just calm. And I'm like super hyperactive and, over the top. And he's like, can I go with you? And I was like, well, I mean, do you want to? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I guess so. I'm like, yeah, you can go with me. And he's like, okay, well, we'll just go together. And then it was like, oh, that was the first realization. I'm going to have to give something up. Like, I'm going to have to compromise. I'm going to have to try. And then that has not stopped. We've been married 23 years, and there is either something for me to give up or for Brian to give up every single day. Every day. And that does cure loneliness. But sometimes, you get about year 18 and you're like, dear God, could I be lonely?
Let me be lonely again.
Jesus,
three kids, 2 dogs, 3 churches, thousands of people.
So,
but yeah, you always
have something to give up.
Something you got to lay on the table. And so a lot of times we think we're good Christians until we get married.
Yeah.
And then we realize how selfish we are, right? You get the battle of the wills. Then you start having kids and babies. They want what they want and they want it now, and they scream till they get it, right?
Yeah, they strip it out of you quick.
Strip it out of you. So it starts, you put more on the table for kids. And that never ends in life. It just keeps going.
No.
And I think it's part of the plan of God to make us more like him.
I heard someone say this the other day, and it's like, they said, and it just resonated with me. They said, every time that you think that you can work on yourself only with yourself, you are mistaken. Unless you're in a community, how do you learn who you are in the community? Unless you are with your family, how do you know who you are in the family? Unless you're married, how do you know who you are in a marriage? So people are off by themselves trying to know themselves and realize themselves. And, there's all these gurus that are telling us that we need to take care of ourselves and all of those things. And I'm happy with anybody taking care of their mental health or their physical health. But there's something about realizing that even whenever God created us, he created us in the image of the triune Godhead. We were in a group while we were being created, so there's just this really amazing understanding whenever you just settle into the fact that God has called us to dwell together, and not just to dwell together, but to dwell together in unity. And that breaks things like loneliness in our life, but it requires things of us that we are absolutely capable of giving, because God created us with the ability. He never requires something of us that he doesn't give us the ability to produce or to deliver. And I love that about God. He's not a frustrating God. He's not like, oh, I'm going to give you this opportunity and then I'm going to give you no ability to do it. And that's how we feel sometimes, like, God, why did you call me to this? But it's because he has absolutely created us with the skill set already embedded and ingrained in our DNA to be able to live the life that God has called us to. He's given us, the Bible says, every single thing we need for life and for godliness. And I think it's in those relationships that you realize most of that,
I think that's so good, because I liken being married to someone is like living with a mirror, and you kind of have things reflected back to you that you wouldn't see if you lived on your own. And I think that's what's so interesting about companionship, because before we get married, we have companions of the same gender, or maybe not, but just usually of the same gender. And we are going about life, and we're not intimately in each other's spaces, and we're not forced to deal with things and not faced with the same things that you are faced with when you're married. So it's not like you can just have that same easy, happy-go-lucky companionship in a marriage when you're in each other's spaces 24/7 and having to deal with things that you just never would deal with in just a regular friendship.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a perfect environment to see what you're made of. Right. And you get out, right. We talked about what you got to give up. You get out what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what marriage is about. And I watch people that have great marriages, and it's because they're willing to lay some stuff down. And I see some people who always struggle. They may even stay together their whole lives, but they struggle because nobody's willing to ante up. And you got to pay to play in life. That's just what it is. There's no golf courses without greens fees. There's no salons you don't pay at the end, right? The same's true with a marriage. You're going to get out what you put in.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think people understand that, because there is nothing for free in life like that. You're right. So you share some funny stories to explain the various issues in marriage that love handles. In your chapter, Love Handles Protection, Pastor Jessi, share with us, please, your airport story.
So we're in the airport all the time. I mean, just constantly. We've traveled our entire life, done work with the underground church, done work with kids rescued out of sex slavery. We've preached all over. It's just a constant state of airport arrivals and departures for us.
DFW is our third home.
DFW is our third home. Like
Kentucky,
our children,
Texas, and DFW.
They know where everything is. Like they have a place that they go to play a game, get a snack. Like they know the whole airport. Like they know. So, and we've traveled with our families. We kind of have a rhythm and a way that we've done things for years. And we have been married long enough that we don't have to talk to communicate. We just look at each other and we know. And we've raised kids in this environment, so we've got all these kids and they're constantly doing something that they're not supposed to do. Someone's thrown up. Like it's just whatever, it's always an adventure. And so we were in the airport one day, and it happened to just be the two of us, which is kind of rare. And we're walking down the terminal, and Brian is always in a hurry because we don't know. We still haven't figured that out. He's broken like 3 therapists trying to figure out what Why? He's always in a hurry.
The only time I sit down is to do a podcast.
Absolutely.
I never, until I sleep.
Like,
I never.
No, it's
when I eat or if I do a podcast. Other than that, I don't sleep.
Yeah, it's mind numbing. I got him like whenever the watches first came out that kept track of your steps, like I thought I was gonna like get him this thing that would keep him so healthy. And I gave it to him, and like by 9 a.m, his steps were 10,000 steps done. Like it's dinging. Like he just paces constantly. And so anyway, in the airport, he's always running ahead of me. So I was just watching him run ahead, and we had no hurry. Our flight wasn't going to leave for hours. So I'm just chilling and I'm walking and I'm having a great time because there's no kids screaming at me. So I was just like walking in this relaxed state, just enjoying my life. And out of the clear blue, a man comes and he like runs up to me and he says, "Wow, you smell so nice." And I kind of backed up because he was in my space, and then he moves even further into my space and he starts smelling my neck, and it was like the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
What's his name? Biden?
Yeah. I was just gonna say that.
About that, but he was probably like his offspring. So anyway, he comes and he's smelling my neck. Well, apparently I said, I was going to say something, but I couldn't think of what to say because I was dumbfounded. And then I'm moving away from him. But Brian knows me so well that he heard my voice change from I'm telling you, like forever away from me. And I'm feeling this man smell my neck, and I'm knowing that he is about to die, because I know that the minute Brian Gibson turns around, it is going to be hell to pay for this dude. So I immediately, my mouth starts trying to say, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it." Because I'm trying to warn him, and my other eye is on Brian, and I see him get down like he's in some kind of football game. Like literally he turned around, saw the man smelling my neck, and he like gets down into like his 3-point stance or something. And then like he just takes off. And I'm telling you, this boy can run. Like he sprinted back down that terminal at that man, just head on. And he is screaming, and I can hear it in slow motion, "Get away from my wife!" Like
this dude was way out of bounds.
No, it was crazy.
I could hear it.
He
I
was
couldn't
like
believe
touching
it.
me.
He like got right up on her.
Yeah.
And I took off sprinting right at him and screaming at him. And I got like,
Yeah.
I grew up wrestling and playing football and all that. It's another day in the office. Your instincts kick in.
The guy turns. He sprints out this. He worked at the airport apparently, and he clicks himself into this door before Brian can get there. And I'm just stunned, standing still, paralyzed. I look up and Brian's like, "Are you okay?" And about that time, I look over. I didn't realize it, but there were 2 or 3 restaurants, with those airport open kind of patios. And the whole terminal starts cheering for Brian.
It was crazy.
They were like, wow, a man did his job. Like they realized this is a dangerous man. He's doing something completely inappropriate. The woman feels like she's in danger. And Brian was like there on it, ready to protect it. It impressed the whole terminal. They cheered and gave him high fives and shook his hand. And it was quite a day.
What's interesting about that is people know what a husband should do for his wife.
They do.
Right? It's instinctual. That's on the inside of all these people that are just there. They heard me screaming. They saw the guy being inappropriate. They saw me go after him, and they were elated because they know it's what's right. Now I remember running at this guy. I'm thinking, well, it's on. He's already crossed the line, and I was thinking, who's going to bail me out? Because I was in St. Louis, so I was running through the guys I preached for in my mind in St. Louis.
Hey, that's the great thing about the kingdom. You've always got someone to bail you out.
Uncle, come get me out of jail in St. Louis. I remember thinking,
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but we're here to protect. It's our job.
That story I thought was so funny, but really it's so important. And that's really what a man is to do, is to provide and protect. I mean, that is what instinctually, that's the DNA that God made men with. And of course, the way you guys tell it, and it's funny now because Jessi was fine and all that. It was such a great story. And I just have to say, in this book, Love Handles, and we're not going to tell you any more, but there are multiple stories. One might be about Christmas and pajamas, and I'm not going to say anything else after that because you have to read the story, Love Handles, to enjoy that story. But I do love how, Romans 8:28 is alive and active in your marriage, that God works all things together for our good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And you can just see how the Lord is working so beautifully these principles in your marriage, where it's not a perfect marriage, but it works. And you guys have worked so hard for a great marriage, and now you're reaping the benefits of it.
Absolutely. I saw my parents live together, not happy for years and years, and they ended up getting a divorce. And when that happened, we had already dedicated ourselves to committing to, this thing that we were going to do. But in that moment, I think we both just decided.
We were adults when they got.
Yeah, I was already 30.
Yeah, we were in our 30s.
I'd been married for, that would make me 11 years married, so I was fully committed to this thing. But I think we realized, like, this can break at any minute. This is so precious. And if we don't invest, then anyone in the world can lose what they have if they don't invest and really work together for it. I feel so jealous sometimes of people that just are easy personalities and just like get through life easy and like their house is easy. I think there are people like that, but we don't own one at the Gibson house.
No,
so like
people in our house
every
Nobody
single
just
day
going along to get along.
is fighting to do the right thing, be the right way, always working to make that stuff work. So I'm telling you, if we can stay married, anybody can stay married.
You're such an encouragement, just because it could be rocky. I mean, if you let your flesh take control, it could be very rocky. And I just have to say, regarding your parents, I think what you're saying about marriage is so true. It's almost like the current in the ocean. I mean, you have a respect for that. It doesn't mean you don't get in the ocean, but you have a respect for that current and a respect for that water, and you know how to swim, and you're super intentional when you get in the water so that the current doesn't take you out. And when the tide is high and when it's low. I mean, you have to know these things. And I think there's a level of respect for marriage. Like you said, that, hey, anybody's marriage could break, anybody at any time. And so you have to treat it like that and work hard and not get lazy and complacent and just kind of go along to get along, but really work hard at making it work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to know that what you have is powerful. Most important relationship that you have. There's got to be boundaries to protect it. There's got to be investments to protect it. And you got to be intentional, because life happens, right? Everybody gets busy. The kids always have another game. There's always another engagement somewhere. Like, we just sat down, came out of a planning session where we're in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conferences in the next 8 weeks, right? So I'm talking, I don't know how many flights between the family, how many different states we preach in. There's always something pulling. And if you're just comfortable with each other, the problem with being comfortable with each other is you can neglect each other.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's Jessi and that's Brian. We've been together for 23 years. It's not going anywhere, but you can lose the intentionality. And when people lose the intentionality, unfortunately, they end up losing the marriage long term. Was just watching Jordan Peterson the other day, and he was, he's everywhere on the internet, but some of the clips were like talking to each other 90 minutes a day. I'm like, dear Lord, we talk to each other 90 minutes and 60 minutes, like every hour of the day. 90 minutes a week is what he said. 90 minutes a week. I'm like, we never shut up.
No.
So talking, dating one another, right? Taking care of one another, loving one another, sex life, taking care of all of this stuff, money, all of this stuff funnels into the same relationship.
Yeah.
And it's creating what the household's like, what you're like, what the children's experience is like. As a pastor, it creates even what people feel when they come into the church we pastor, right? It's an extension of our life because we're the leaders there. So we know we have to protect this, or everything else in our world comes crashing down.
That's right.
And it's not like we're just some guys. The rest of their world is not affected. It's all affected, but I'll say this: sometimes they think it's not affected, like a preacher's world is affected. So if we get divorced, it sinks our ministry for a period of time, right?
We can't even work.
Sinks our church for a period of time. But a guy that just owns a company out there, I'll use my dad as an illustration. Big business guy, big cattle guy. A lot of times business guys are lied to because they think they'll still have this money and everything will be all right. The rest of the world gets rocked. It's very apparent with us. If we crash, everything crashes.
Yeah. And really, I mean, God has called you for such a time as this. And so what an attack of the enemy that would be. And I love your intentionality and realizing, the fragile nature of any marriage, but especially with you all being the leaders of a church. I mean, it's just even more important. I think one of the most powerful statements that struck me was when y'all said, if you're going to win in life and marriage, you must learn to play hurt. You two have played hurt before over and over and over. Talk to us about that.
I always think there's a difference. Grew up in sports. There's a difference between being hurt and being injured.
Absolutely.
All right. If you're going to play football, I'll just give it as an example. I grew up playing that sport. You're going to get hurt a lot. Like almost every other play, you get dinged. Your fingers get hung between face masks and crushed. You get stepped on. You get kicked. You're going to get hurt. But you play hurt. You can't come off the field because you busted your fingernail, right? Can't come off the field because you broke your pinky. You tape that up, you keep playing. Now, an injury is something different. When you get injured, you go down, you blow out your ACL or something, your knee is shot. There's no getting up. You got to take time. You got to lay down. You got to recover. You got to put it back together. But in marriage, there's lots of times that we're going to unintentionally injure one another. We're going to say things we didn't mean to say, right? Or we did mean to say in a moment of passion that we shouldn't have. There are situations in life that are going to hurt you. You're going to be emotionally hurt by people you're connected to, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and you have to keep taking care of each other and being a team player. Take care of the team despite of your hurts. Now, if you're injured, everybody's got to stop and get you through it, right? A life-altering issue, a big surgery, right? Something like that comes up, you got to take care of it. But people have to learn, just because you're hurt today, it's not time to tap out. You got to take care of the marriage.
I think there are times when we have been hurt so much, the outward things, family things, business crashes, things that have happened, church uproar, whatever it's been for us and our family. We had, children, we miscarried a baby. We've had one show up way too early and had to nurse that baby back to health, and mom in the process. We've had surgeries and things that have taken us out that have actually injured us, and we've had to stop. I think sometimes we don't like to stop when we are injured, and we do like to stop when we're hurt. Because we want to prove that we're tough when we're injured and like, I don't need it. But there's actually been a time when Brian and I, like, our marriage and personal life was injured. Like, we were not well. And I just said to him, like, we must stop. We have to stop. No one is getting anything out of us until this. And it wasn't a physical injury. It was an emotional injury that we had to man. We had to take care of it. And he looked at me and he's like, agreed, 100%. Like, what do we do? So like, I call up to a retreat center for pastors. And I'm like, hey, if we don't want to get a divorce, but we do want to get better, can we still come? Because I didn't know if they even offered that, but I don't want to wait till
we're messed up. We don't want to get divorced, but we're messed up. Can you help us?
And they're absolutely, so we took the time and we stopped and we had the surgery emotionally that we needed and the help that we needed, because I'm not willing to get taken out because I'm so prideful that I think that Brian and I can't be broken, and so I don't want that pride to get in the way. So, but I think we're less likely to get help when we're injured, because we're just like, no, we don't want anybody to know that we're hurt, but then when you're hurt, there's like a sadness that comes with the hurt that makes you just want to go to bed, ignore the world, ignore your spouse, ignore everything, or just go to your job and work until you can just ignore it, or go to, wherever it is that you go to just get away from that person and everything about them, totally close them out. And I think sometimes people don't know how to keep on playing hurt. They either want to drag everybody into it or they want to ignore it altogether. Neither one of those things help anything. There was a time that we were hurt and not injured. And we sat down and I said, Brian, we still like each other. That's big. We ask each other that almost every week. Do you still like me? Like, I don't care if you love me, because I choose to love him. But do you like me? And, there's been a lot of weeks that Brian's looked back at me and said, no, I don't like you very much this week. Like, you haven't killed it. Like, you're not giving it the effort. And I've said the same thing to him, and we've just had to be honest. But at this point I said, we've planted a church. We are working 80 hours a week. We're raising kids. Like, I'm exhausted and I feel like your work partner, but we are in no way, shape, form, or fashion romantic at all. And he thought everything was good because we were still having sex, like, as long as there was sex, he thought everything was fantastic. And I'm like, no, that's not equivalent. Like, just because I obey the Lord and the commands and the things, doesn't mean that we that everything's whole and I was injured. So we had to keep playing while we fixed it. When you're injured, you got to stop and fix the problem. And if people can learn to really play hurt and keep going and still raise your kids and still go to work, but still make sure that you work on it. We started every single week going out for 1 hour, putting our phones down, staring each other in the eye. Even if I didn't like him that week or he didn't like me, we ate together and we looked at each other and we asked the right questions and we refused to fight in that hour and nobody else got that hour. It became such a part of our rhythm that our church people would be out in the community, see us at dinner on Thursday night, and they will not talk to us. They will run the other direction because they know that is our time that we help no one but us. And it got to the point where we weren't hurt anymore and we started living healthy and I was happy and we had fun on our dates and I would plan one and then he would plan one and then I would plan one and then he would plan one. And it became so healthy. I was like, I don't really need it, but we still made ourselves do the effort of the maintenance. You said maintenance is, we were talking earlier before the show, maintenance is a big deal, so we still make ourselves do the maintenance and the things, even when it feels great, because you need that strength when it gets really hard. And so I think people don't have the stamina to play hurt because they haven't taken care of themselves in the time whenever they were healthy.
Yeah, you do have to look at yourself. A coach asked me that first. Right? You're down on the field playing high school ball. And the question is, Gibson, are you hurt or are you injured? Which one are you right now? And he was saying, can you get up and go on and play through the pain? Or do we need to call the ambulance? Because you're rolling around down here. What's the deal? I think that's what you got to do. You got to see where you are. Is your marriage hurt or is it injured? If it's injured, we need to get some real professional help here.
Yeah.
Right. Get a third party, get a counselor, get somebody to come in. Let's fix
not
the
your
injury.
mama, because she loves you more than
that. Mama, not your best friend, not your coworker, but someone who can be a third party that has a just measure and a just scale. And I think that's helped us. We went through some tough injuries. I mean, in life too. Think about public stuff. We're pastors, right? Our families were very ministry connected. Her folks got divorced, very public. Lots of pain, lots of church hurt, all that kind of stuff at the time. You got to play. We got to keep pastoring. We got to stay married. We got to raise our kids in the midst of that. My family ended up on in Forbes magazine. I had an uncle that my
not
dad
for
was
good things
partners with that crashed and burned very publicly. So at the same time, her folks got divorced. My uncle got indicted, went to prison for 8 years. They called him the Lehman Brothers of Livestock. He was my dad's partner. But my dad had died several years before. And I'm telling you, our whole world ended up in
even though we were out of the business, it was our name.
The business, but our names hit the papers at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're public figures. And I remember fighting through some of that. There's just stuff in life you got to deal with.
I remember that night we laid in bed and we looked at each other and he said, Jessi, do you remember when we used to be somebody?
That's all.
Oh, do you remember? He said, those days are over, and in the moment, it feels like everything's crashing. We can't fix it. And you want to just lay down and quit. But that is not the time to lay down and quit. It's the time to pick up everything you have, hold hand and play that game ahead of you, because God has a win for you. And we believe that the family's called to win. And we can't win if we only play on days we feel great.
That's right.
I think that's so key. And that's why that struck me, because being injured and hurt, I think everything's a big deal. We do know some of those things that happen in a marriage, you just might hold it in and not talk about it. I think that's key to first differentiate and then treat it accordingly to whether it's an injury or not. So I love that. I thought that was very, very helpful. And also regarding maintenance, I think that our culture is maybe focused on living a life of maybe comfort and convenience, and you don't want to deal with things until like it's a big, big deal. And I think the maintenance of, like you said, Pastor Jessi, like just sowing into your marriage, even when times are good, and prioritizing that, because when you have that respect of the fragility of it, you understand that, yeah, it's good now, but if we forsake this and let life just take over and not prioritize our marriage and each other, then this can fall apart too. And so I think that is really critical. Pastor Brian, you said, if there's one thing I want you to walk away from this book knowing, it's that God is for your marriage. Tell us why that's important.
Yeah, God is the author of marriage. God's a covenant-making, covenant-keeping God. It's how he does everything. Now God does anything is really how God does everything. So God is for marriage, and we're living in a culture right now that's attacking the Christian view of marriage with such a force at such a high rate of speed. It's amazing, right? We see it right down to the identity of who a man and woman is. What is the definition of marriage? Should you even be getting married or just be dating and living around? It's being attacked from every angle. So I want people to know that God's real design is for a man and a woman, right? Marriage is man and a woman living in a marriage covenant exclusively for each other. And that's God's building block. He created that first. Before God gave us the church, he gave us the family. You look right now how America is targeting, and I'm not talking about the American people, but there seems to be, we'll call it a spirit or an attitude or an onslaught against traditional family values, right? The seed or the children you have are the future. They're the power. They're worldview. They're your heritage. They're your legacy. And everybody wants control of the seed of the earth. The seed is the future. The devil wants the seed. You see it all the way in the book of beginnings in the garden, right? God said, I'm going to fix the world through a seed that comes through the woman, would be Jesus ultimately. So this marriage creates the worldview of our children. It creates everything. And if you can tear apart the family unit, you can shape the future however you want it. We don't want our future shaped just any way. We want it shaped in God's image, in God's way, according to God's likeness. And so God's for your marriage. He wants you to make it, right? He wants you to stick together. He wants to turn Jesus's first ministry happened in Cana of Galilee. Jessi had been there many times where he turned the water into wine, right? It's the end of a marriage feast. Mary's there. Jesus shows up. They're running out of wine. They got a party after a wedding. It's embarrassing not to have food, not to have something to serve people. And in this day, not to have wine. And so Mary tells Jesus, go help him. He says, it's not my time, but women are very persuasive. She came at Jesus again. And he says, he tells somebody to go get this water, bring it and bless it, dip from this water pot. And they carry it over to the master of the ceremony. Before they get there, that water, plain water that was used to wash dishes, turns into the best wine that's ever been tasted, right? Master of the ceremony drinks it, says, you saved the best wine for last. I'm telling you, God can take your marriage and turn the water into wine. He is for you, not against you. Don't let the devil lie to you. Don't let the world lie to you. God wants you to make it. You got what it takes.
I love that. That's the truth right there. So the book is Love Handles. And is it available everywhere, like Amazon, bookstores? Yeah. Where can they get it?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.com. Type in Love Handles, Brian and Jessi. It'll come right up. You could also get it at just lovehandlesbook.com. That's lovehandlesbook.com. And if you get it there, we'll sign it and send you an autographed copy. We would love to get you one.
Well, that would be the place to get it. And we'll link those in our content description. And then how can people connect with you?
So we are both on Instagram, Gibson Jessi and Pastor Brian Gibson on Instagram, social media of all sorts. Also through his church, which is just all over social media. Our hischurch.cc website. You can connect with us there. That is the church that we pastor. That's in 3 locations, and we'd love to see you locally anytime. If you're around, come and see us. Yeah,
we also podcast at Brian and Jessi, Brian and Jessi, YouTube, Rumble, all that stuff. It's out there.
Yeah. And I'm telling you what, I love to listen to you guys because it's just like this. It's just entertaining, but super helpful. Lots of godly wisdom. And we appreciate all you do. I can't believe you have 3 campuses and you do a podcast and you wrote a book and I don't know when you sleep, but I'm glad that you don't, because you're helping the world and you're helping change our nation. And thank you so much for what you guys are doing. We're so grateful.
Thank you for having us. We sure do appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. I'll have all those places linked in our content description. And if you have any questions or comments, just email us at moms@momsonamission.net. That's moms@momsonamission.net. And then you can check us out on our website at momsonamission.net. And please follow us on Rumble. We're on all the platforms. We have 2 hits on YouTube. So we don't want you to think we went MIA if we get a 3rd hit. So if you just follow us on Rumble, we won't be going anywhere. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day. In light of recent bank volatility and skyrocketing inflation, diversification is a must. That's why I use my good friend Andrew Sorcini at Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Beverly Hills Precious Metals makes it so easy to diversify. I personally ordered some silver and it arrived on my doorstep just a few days later. They make it so easy. And if you're not ready to do that and you just want to ask a few questions, they're there for you too. I personally got some silver and also am rolling over some of my IRA. You can actually roll over your IRA and have it be backed by silver and gold. So if you don't have any extra money to invest in silver and gold, rolling over a 401k or an IRA, or even part of it, if you just want to try it at first, just for a little bit, you can do that as well. So go to bh-pm.com today and ask all your questions. You can connect with somebody. And like I said, you can just get some information at first if you want and pray about it, and then get back with them to roll over part of your IRA or all of it, or order some gold and silver. That's bh-pm.com. and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. Hey, everybody. Did you know that recent research from the CDC says that millions of Americans develop parasitic infections and symptoms often go unnoticed or are misdiagnosed? Parasites are actually the cause of many health problems such as anxiety, depression, chronic pain, fatigue, and unexplained digestive issues. We all need a common sense strategy to improve our health. Moms on a Mission encourages you to reach out to our good friend, Dr. Jason Dean. Dr. Dean's Full Moon Protocol provides all natural detoxification and fights inflammation. And the supplements are made with 100% organic ingredients and are proven to kill parasites safely and effectively. I know after I took Full Moon Protocol, I had more energy. To order your Full Moon Protocol today, go to bravetv.store/mission to save $20 off your first order. That's bravetv.store/mission. According to leading sleep experts and sleephealth.org, over 50 million Americans struggle getting a good night's rest. That's why Moms on a Mission loves MyPillow. MyPillow makes amazing pillows, sheets, mattress toppers, robes, towels, literally almost everything you need for a good night's sleep. They also make dog beds for your dogs. So by going to mypillow.com, typing in the code MISSION, you not only receive a high quality product, but you're supporting Moms on a Mission and this podcast. If you like what you're hearing and you agree with it, you believe in it, and you want to support Moms on a Mission, then go to mypillow.com today and order some high quality products and just type in the code MISSION at checkout and you can save up to 66% off. That's mypillow.com, code MISSION.
Since 2014, Organic Body Essentials has offered clean, simple, certified organic skincare. Our organic face-to-feet and federally compliant hemp and pet products are manufactured under USDA and FDA guidelines. Our products are inspired by God using plants He created. In Ezekiel 47:12, it says, "The fruit is for food and the leaves for healing." We believe in the power of God to heal, so we pray over our products and for our customers. Our therapy in a bottle approach has been widely received, and our customers' testimonials continue to inspire us. You can find us at organicbodyessentials.com and obe.organicbodyessentials.com. Please feel welcome to reach out with questions. Use coupon code MISSION at checkout for a discount. Thank you for your support by using MISSION at checkout to benefit Moms on a Mission and their quest to reestablish traditional values in our education system and empowerment for a healthy lifestyle.